Okay. Is there at this point anybody who wants to pick up on any points that were made? Any, stick your hand up and please tell us who you are when you ask the question. Jackie, did you? No, no, sorry. Does anybody at this point want to respond to anything they've heard? We've had three very full answers there. They've thrown up issues about the union being safe. They've thrown up issues about insecurity, alienation. Jim's argument in the sense that you're not voting because you can't get rid of the government because there is an opposition to politics. Does anybody at this stage thinks that there's something that they would like to ask or inquire regarding that? You have a microphone. There's a microphone coming now, okay? Could you each kind of stand up as well and tell us your name? Date of birth? Football allegiances? Anything like that?
William McFarlane. I was just wondering, do the panel think that maybe the perception that politicians have their snouts in the trough would have anything to do with people not turning out to vote, and also that they think that Peter Robbins is useless?
Philip, would you like to, being a man from a community background, understand what's happening in the community? Do you think there's a sense that the politicians are looking after themselves? I'm okay, Jack, not caring about community. Do you think that's true?
I work with young people most days of the week and try and engage them with what their interests in politicians are. And most of them have no interest whatsoever in any form of politics. In any form of politics. A lot of them feel that it doesn't make a difference whatsoever, that the same people are still going to be there every time, that they're more interested in point scoring against each other than they are actually doing any work. And I think we're already starting to see a wee bit of this evening or that. But whether or not they think Peter Robinson per se is useless or not, I think a lot of young people think most politicians are beyond them, that they're not able to engage with them or speak with them on their level. We try to bring politicians to some of our youth groups to engage young people. I think the politicians may be surprised at the level of interest young people have. Not being necessarily to do with the idea about unions or cultural identity, but more to do about when they leave school they're going to have a job. So as for I think there's an element that some people do think that there's snakes in the trough somewhere, and I think on the whole furore around Westminster and the expansive scandal didn't do anyone any favours. And I think there's just complete apathy within the entire unionist community around voting. But it's nothing new. We get the voting patterns for the last 20 or 30 years. It's been declining. And it seems to be that unionism only decides to do anything where we're already in a crisis.
I think we have to remember, don't forget that in the Belfast City Council elections, the last two elections, Sinn Féin lost 18% of their vote and the SDL being 52%. So these problems are not just unique to unionism. Geoffrey, your party, one of the arguments that Jim has made is that people have turned away from voting because you can't get a government out, you can't challenge government, you can't have opposition in politics. If you actually think with the Belfast City Council, your party's only declined by about 3 or 4% in the Belfast City Council in terms of its votes over the last two elections. So do you have the same pessimism about why people don't engage, or how do we get people to engage more with unionist politics?
Well, first of all, let's have a few facts. The DUP in recent years has increased its representation across every elected forum in Northern Ireland. And far from Jim saying that we're in decline and people don't trust us, in this constituency here, 4 out of the 6 MLAs are DUP. We increased our representation in the Assembly elections despite this supposed breakdown in trust to our highest ever level of 38. And I could go on, but I'm not here tonight to engage with Jim in some kind of petty squabble over numbers. The reality is that people are not voting, and unionist politicians point scoring of each other is more inclined to turn them off voting than it is to persuade them to come out voting. And this is not a recent phenomenon, so let's not suggest that the reason people are not coming out to vote is because of something that happened a year ago, 2 years ago. I've been an MP now for 16 years in this constituency. I know the areas that turn out well and the areas that don't, and they haven't changed. I think there is a problem within unionism in terms of working class loyalist areas where people have got away from voting over a number of years and don't see the relevance of it. It's not unique to Northern Ireland. Let me tell you, in the same social areas in England, voter turnouts are even lower than they are in working class royalist areas. It's the same in Scotland, in Glasgow, in the large working class estates there. Voter turnouts way, way down. So this is not a phenomenon unique to Northern Ireland. It is something that is happening across the United Kingdom. In fact, Northern Ireland is, on average, higher voter turnouts in most elections than it does in the UK. So I don't think it's down to one political party. And, you can try and suggest that I blame a particular political party. I think that unionism has to address this collectively, which is why I think through the Unionist Forum we have an opportunity to engage with people. That's why I welcome meetings like this, because we don't do enough of this. I can only speak for myself, but in this constituency, as Philip will know, we spend a lot of time in working class communities, bringing investment into those communities, ensuring that the community organisations have the resources that they need to develop things. But it's not getting people out to vote. That's the difficulty. And I think Billy is right. I think it's down to politicisation. People have got switched off politics for a whole variety of reasons, and not just because of disillusionment with one party or another. Frankly, if it was only the fault of one party, then why are the other parties not attracting the people out to vote? None of us can hold our hand up and say we've done a good job of getting people out to vote for those areas we haven't. And I think it's because people have become fed up, disillusioned. They see their politicians having a go at each other on the TV screens all the time. And yes, Jim is right, there are structural issues that we need to address at Stormont. There is a provision for a review of the current structures, and I hope in time we will be able to persuade the nationalist parties to move towards a more normal system of government. That is our objective. But look, folks, unionism is just over half the community in Northern Ireland, and we have to accept a reality that we can discuss and agree how we go forward, but we've also got to persuade our nationalist neighbours to sign up to what it is we agree to. And if we want to change the political institutions, and if we want to change the way Northern Ireland is governed, it won't just be delivered by unionism. We're going to have to reach out and engage and persuade others. And yes, let's deal with the elephant in the room, which is Sinn Féin. Sinn Féin are by far the largest nationalist party, and anyone who seriously believes that we can change the political arrangements in Northern Ireland and ignore Sinn Féin, and that the British government and the Irish government will simply sit back and allow that to happen, I have to deal in real politics. And the realpolitik of Northern Ireland is that almost half of this community does not share our viewpoint, and they are represented by a party that was engaged in a campaign of murder against our people, but the Catholic community elect them to Stormont. They are the largest nationalist party, and we have to accept that's the reality. And it's difficult, it's challenging to deal with people like that. But whatever we do in unionism, we must not face away from the reality that we live in a divided society. And that divided society is much more than unionism, and there are other people that we have to try and persuade. So that's perhaps broadening it out beyond the question, but it is relative to the question, because the debate is not just one about how we get more people politicised in unionism. It's, well, how do we change things for the better, and how do we improve them? How do we improve our political system? And I'm simply stating the reality that we won't be able to do that on our own. We're going to have to persuade others, apart from ourselves, to change.
Could we just have actually a show of hands? Who in this room didn't vote in the last election? Everybody in this room voted in the last election? My goodness! Why do we not have 108 MLAs or unionists in Northern Ireland? Is nobody in this room prepared to put up their hand and say they didn't vote? Nobody.
Up the left side towards the back.
Everybody in this room voted in the last election. Oh, sorry, where are they?
Left side.
Would you mind telling me, if we send you up a microphone, would you mind telling us why you didn't vote? Okay. Well, keep the hand up. We know who you are. Mike Desmond's just written down your address, so you can visit later on with the Ulster Unionist Party. Was he too young? Do you mind saying why you didn't vote? Or? Go, you want to say? So everybody in this room except for one person voted in the last election. This lady, the gentleman here, sir. Would you mind telling us why you didn't vote? Now, people, this is a forum for exchange. You know, you're here to ask questions. You're here with an opportunity to ask questions from your political representatives. So let's use the time to do that.
I'm William McFarlane. Well, I've only turned 18, so obviously I'm not old enough to vote. Well, I'm old enough to vote now, but not at the last election. But also, there's no one at Lisburn I would vote for. I don't feel like I'm represented enough. No one would come round the doors, no politicians. You hear from them at the election, and you don't hear from them until a month before the next election. So what do you think? Why not get out to the schools? Why not try and politicise? Like Jeffrey Dawson sits here and says about politicising people. Why don't you get out to the schools? Why don't you get out to the youth groups? Why don't all of you get out and start engaging with the youth?
In the last election, because quite clearly we're talking about 55% of the Unionist population in some elections don't vote. Is there anybody else who's prepared to, or anybody else would like to offer an opinion why a friend of theirs doesn't vote? Would anybody like to? So everybody feels well served by Unionist politicians. They feel they're doing a good job. No? Okay. Mervyn, tell me this: the Unionist Forum. I think you remember the Unionist Forum, are you? So, within the Unionist Forum, do you think you're going to be able to reverse this trend in non-voting, the decline in non-voting within unionism?
Thanks to the organisers for the invite here this evening. It is good to see such a big crowd. Will the Unionist Forum reverse trends in the voting patterns? I don't know, but I would hope so. Because something needs to change within our community to get our people energised again about the union and the political side of the union. I think we get energised about our culture, we get energised about the covenant and our parades and many things like that, but I do think we need to re-engage politically. Why has that dropped off over the years? Why have there been an absence of real politics in Northern Ireland for many years now with direct rule? And people didn't fully understand politics. And with a generation growing up now, maybe two generations, that don't know the political process, don't know the ins and outs. Just either mark their action paper, put 1, 2 and 3, but they never really think what are they voting for in terms of what does it mean to them in an everyday situation. I think that was compounded then with the Belfast Agreement and then the St Andrews Agreement. I have a hobby horse, and maybe some here have heard it before, but I believe Republicans prepared their community for the process, what you call the political process or peace process. The meetings like this in GA halls up and down the countryside, they told their people what was going to happen. They'd have to accept the police, but they would get the police changed. They'd have to go into government unions. There would still be Union Jack flying over the country, but it was a process on the way to United Ireland. I don't think our people are prepared. I think the paramilitary is prepared for the prisoners getting out. Some of the political parties played politics, but that didn't filter down to the people on the ground, Unionist people on the ground. And thus, one day, we woke up and Paisley had signed something. It came out of the blue. And there was no narrative. How do we deal with this? How do we deal with our former enemies who tried to murder us only a matter of weeks and months before they signed that deal, could be sitting in government with us? There was no narrative for the RUC being done away with and a new police force coming on. So the Unionist people weren't prepared for that. And I don't think we've fully recovered from that. And I have to say, I don't think the majority of the MLAs, whether they're official unionists, democratic unionists, or whatever, sell that to their people, sell what politics looks like in Northern Ireland today. And Jeffrey described what it looks like. We have Sinn Féin, the IRA men in government, then who murdered friends, colleagues, family members of ours in government. How do we cope with that? Well, some people would say, get them out of government and change the style of government, which is a legitimate enough stand, but you take that to the electorate. But sadly, or maybe not so sadly, depending on your point of view, the electorate voted for the system we have. It was a democratic decision. So Jeffrey's right, 50% of the government are nationalists.